In Part 1, we laid out the foundation for how John was going to use the ransom note's directions as a cover for his hidden plan. In the following hypothetical scenario, an innocent Patsy is convinced by a guilty John to follow the ransom note's directions and avoid contacting authorities. We must emphasize that this is speculative and not meant to be considered a precise alternative timeline. We will begin at 5:30 a.m. on the morning in question. Patsy has awakened to find a ransom note and no sign of JonBenet. After hearing Patsy's reaction to the note, John hurries down from his bathroom. John calms Patsy down and reads the entire ransom note out loud. Patsy is convinced that the only way to get her daughter safely back was to comply with the kidnapper's demands. The thought of JonBenet being beheaded and not returned for proper burial deeply upsets Patsy. To Patsy, this would endanger JonBenet's soul for eternity. John and Patsy agree that John should take care of the situation, just as the note directs. The note directs John specifically to withdraw the ransom from his account. The note directs John to bring a quote, adequate size attaché, for the money. Note: even if John knew that the money specified in the note would literally be the size of a sandwich, the more appropriate question is whether Patsy would have known. Most people would have thought the $118,000 ransom would look like what most cash ransoms look like. Most of you envision something like this. We believe that, like most people, Patsy would have had the same idea. The bank did not open until 9 a.m. John tells Patsy that withdrawing the money would not be a problem. John could have either sent Patsy and Burke to a friend's house, or allowed Patsy to call friends to come comfort her. We don't believe that, for appearances, John would have been able to leave Patsy and Burke alone in the house where the daughter was just kidnapped. We believe that most likely, John would have let Patsy have friends over. This would contaminate the scene, just as it played out in reality. John tells Patsy to watch over Burke and let him continue to sleep. John searches the house for clues or any more communications from the kidnappers. John goes to the basement and gathers the hidden duct tape, cord, and third piece of the broken paintbrush into a bag to take with him. At some point, John returns to the basement and prepares to move the suitcase, which has JonBenet's body in it. Whenever the coast was clear, John takes the suitcase, now weighing approximately 55 pounds, up the stairs and out to the car. John returns into the house and speaks to Patsy about the note. John points out that if the kidnappers monitor John getting the money early, they might set up an early delivery. John tells Patsy that he will leave just before 9 a.m. to the bank. In the meantime, he asks Patsy if she heard anything the night before. Patsy remembers that she took a melatonin and slept through the night. John says his night was rather uneventful. With a half hour to go before he must leave to the bank, John tells Patsy to stay with Burke while he looks in the basement for anything left behind by the kidnappers. With the car loaded with the suitcase and evidence, John pulls out of the driveway at 8:45 a.m. As mentioned earlier, the note says that if John picks up the money early, the kidnappers will contact him for early delivery. we believe that it was John's plan to pick up the money first, while he still had JonBenet's body in the suitcase. To justify the large cash withdrawal, John could have said he was buying a boat. We doubt that a man of John's standing would have difficulty withdrawing the ransom amount. After John leaves the bank with the money and returns home, we believe this is where the quote, exhausting delivery would have begun. The ransom note directs John to be arrested for an exhausting delivery. We believe John included this to give himself a large window of time where he could be unaccounted for. We believe that John was going to claim that the kidnappers sent him on some kind of a wild goose chase. In reality, we believe that John was going to drive into the wilderness, or go to a distant body of water, and dispose of JonBenet and other evidence. John would have probably hidden the money, to be retrieved years later. John would then head back home with no money, and no JonBenet. John would have returned home after being gone for 2 or 3 hours. John would explain that he followed all the directions. He would explain to Patsy that the kidnappers lied to him and sent him on a wild goose chase. John would then say that once he left the money where he was told, he didn't hear from them again, and did not get JonBenet. Some may ask how John would have communicated with the kidnappers during the quote, exhausting delivery. We believe that John would have claimed that more written notes were left giving directions to the next note and so forth. We base this theory on John's rather interesting explanation for checking his mail on the actual morning in question. When asked why he checked his mail, John said that he wanted to see if the kidnappers had left him any more notes. This leads us to suspect that if he would have executed his plan and fabricated the exhausting delivery, John would have claimed that the kidnappers left notes, but that the notes were destroyed by the kidnappers or otherwise not available as proof. Patsy would have been devastated at the realization that JonBenet was gone. With no other options, John would let the more distressed Patsy make the 911 call. Although the record shows that John apparently urged Patsy to call the police, this is based on John's own testimony. And if John was the one who wanted to call police, why did Patsy end up actually picking up the phone? That marks the end of the hypothetical scenario. We have a rather ironic conclusion to John's unexecuted plan. Although John's plan did not happen, we believe that this ended up being better for John. In other words, we believe that if John had executed this plan, he would have created a lot more incriminating evidence, and probably been arrested. We believe that John created this entire plan under severe distress, for obvious reasons. John was alone in the basement, and getting the body out of the house was probably weighing heavily on him. John conceived of a plan that may have looked like his best option at that time. Perhaps John was even relieved that Patsy called the police when she actually did. Perhaps John was relieved that he did not have to harshly dispose of his daughter's body. JonBenet was wrapped in a blanket when she was, quote, found by John. Although we believe John did not want Patsy to call police, this may have prevented him from executing his plan, and ironically kept him out of jail. The manner in which events actually unfolded, although unintended by John, may have ended up benefiting him.